Welcome to this edition of the Boob Tube Buddies podcast, featuring our discussion of the amazing HBO show Westworld, Episode 3, entitled The Stray. A couple of quick bits of information. You can check out all of our content at www.boobtubebuddies.com. That is all our old episodes going back to Stranger Things and Preacher, all of our current ones, including American Horror Story, Luke Cage, and Westworld. And you can also follow us on Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, Instagram, and Reddit, or just email us at boobtubebuddies@gmail.com to get in on the conversation. Well, fuck it, just keep it. We'll make sure your questions and theories go on air. My name's Foxman, and I am joined by my ever dapper co-host, Mothman. What's going on, Mothman?
And I say, hey, yeah. That's a what's going on reference. What's going on?
Yeah, I got it.
Hey. Anyway, I'm doing great. I will say, I can't wait till we are just such a big name in podcasting that, people are searching us out on social media and we don't have to mention that we have it.
Yeah, you don't like that we have to pimp ourselves for the first 30 seconds of every single podcast and the last 30 seconds of every single podcast?
I wouldn't say I don't like it. I just can't wait wait for a world in which we don't have to do it.
Yeah, that is true. Probably by episode 30 of Preacher when we're chameleonaires.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's kind of like driving cars. Like, I don't mind driving, but I can't wait for a world where I have a self-driving car and I just get to read comics and listen to music on the way to work and not focus on the road. Come
on, we all know all you're going to do is jerk off everywhere.
That's true. Especially if all the windows are like two-way mirrors so they can't see in.
Oh, no.
But I can see out.
I bet you're just fucking loving that I started off with that joke to go into the podcast.
Oh, why not? Okay. I will say if someone joins in on Westworld Episode 3, they're going to have a slightly skewed depiction of Mothman.
Are they really, though?
I said slightly. I'm talking 8%.
Yeah. Okay. So have I missed anything before we get into the episode? Any other? You want to mention the Amazon links just real quick?
Oh, shit. Yeah. So another great way to support us. I imagine you Westworld fans out there like other sci-fi and other movies and other great TV shows, and you probably buy them with your hard-earned cash. So next time you're going to think about buying something, check out the descriptions of each of our podcasts because we include relevant media, whether that's the Westworld movie from the 70s or just TV shows similar or movies. It's a way to buy something for no more than you normally would and give us a little cut of the slab, you know what I'm saying?
And boom goes the dynamite. Okay, boom. You ready to do this?
Yeah, all right.
All right, so so we start off with Dolores and Bernard having another conversation at the Delos headquarters, and the first thing I want to mention, she is fully clothed in all of these conversations that they are having now, which is completely unlike all of the other hosts that are in the Delos headquarters.
Yeah, all the interrogations we've seen in the past have the team members or robots or whatever you want to call them naked. So this, I think, is kind of, I mean, they don't ever explicitly say it, but this implies that this is on the down low. This is discreet.
It's definitely that. And I think it's also indicative of the fact that he is really assigning more of human traits to her than is probably, is probably specified by Delos, by their rules. You know what I mean? Especially when you look at what Ford says to that other technician that's covered the guy up later on. He's like, they're robots. He rips the thing off. He's like, they don't feel cold. They don't feel pain. He, goes in with the scalpel. So you can definitely see a very distinct dichotomy between the school of thought that clearly Bernard has versus what Dr. Ford has. And you definitely start to see, whereas they seem very much like two peas in a pod in the first two episodes, there is
a few different, points
core
of contention.
Differences.
Yeah,
yes.
Right. So, and we'll talk about that more. I think after the Audible ad, we'll talk about the ethics of machines. But I find it pretty interesting that they have that distinction in there.
Yes.
And you can tell that he is, starting to treat her differently just with all that's going on. And in regard to that, he gives her a book, Alice in Wonderland, which automatically has some cool analogies associated with what's going on here. But he also mentions that, and this is the first time I think we know of his son, he mentions that he used to read it to his son. And
Charlie,
has her read,
yes.
Yeah, and has her read a specific passage.
Yes, and then she makes note of the fact that all of the different reading materials, which apparently he's been giving her during these secret little meetups, all of them have something specific to do with change.
Indeed.
Ooh, so that is the common theme here. He's obviously just trying to constantly probe into what is her evolution of consciousness. It's clearly growing and it is changing. And he's trying to kind of figure out into what? What is it growing into? Is she fully self-aware yet?
Yeah.
As a viewer, you can tell that is where it's going. And I think Bernard is just trying to, I think he's fascinated. Like that it is certainly something that is unprecedented. And he is kind of sitting in at the ground floor. Literally, it seems like he's on the ground floor because he's clearly in one of like the sub-basement rooms or something like that. You can tell it's not the state-of-the-art Delos, main headquarter floor.
Sure, and he's sitting and like touching the ground instead of flying or floating.
Sure.
Right?
Yeah.
That's the bare minimum needed to say the term ground floor.
Yeah, he is. He's not jetpacking around. So,
yeah. Dolores got a gun.
Okay. Anyway,
she does get a gun at the scene.
Yes, Dolores awakens in her bed, and she goes to the dresser, and immediately Dolores pulls out a gun. So you can tell, I don't know, actually maybe I'm projecting my own thoughts into this, but tell me what you think. To me, it looked like the look on her face was like she had kind of, because probably her memory had been scrubbed or something, she, for a moment, had forgotten that gun was in there. The look on her face, she looked surprised to see it. And then maybe more of it was coming back to her because she does get a flashback of the man in black dragging her into the barn. So maybe at that moment she's remembering, oh yeah, this is why I grabbed the gun, to protect myself from things like that happening.
Yeah, I mean, to me, the look on her face really was just kind of the reverie look. So she sees it, she doesn't necessarily recognize it, just like any of the instances where the reverie happens, and then a certain word triggers it. So she sees it, she's shocked. It then triggers the memory. She sees the instance where the man in black is, not being the best.
Yes, so we're on the same page on that. Okay, so let's jump into, and just a heads up to the listeners, we're not going fully sequentially for this episode. We are going to kind of group plot lines just so that we can have clear, cohesive thoughts on certain events that transpire. So just giving a heads up ahead of time that's the case. So let's get to William in Stillwater.
And the nice thing about doing it that way is it's kind of like a remix. You already watched it the sequential way. Why not chop this shit up?
Yeah, that's actually a pretty good point. This is kind of like when you get Run DMC joining Aerosmith on Walk This Way. Not that we're Run DMC. Walk this way! Okay, way to go, Steven Tyler. There was a thing on Reddit the other day about Steven Tyler that was really upsetting about him. I guess he met this girl when she was like super young, 14 or 16 or something like that. Got her parents to sign away the parental rights or something, and then he knocked her up, and then like heavily encouraged her to get an abortion. Oh, it was like some really heavy shit. And like I always really liked Steven Tyler, and afterwards I was like, I hope that's not true.
Yeah, I've never really liked Steven Tyler.
What, just because he looks like a lady?
Yeah, well, mainly just because he looks like a giant mouth. But I've never disliked him either. I haven't been like impartial one way or another, but that's always
he is the caricature upsetting that people at Disney make, like with like the larger features and stuff. That is him in actuality.
Definitely. So, but his discretions aside.
Yes, William in Stillwater.
Yes, William in Stillwater. Probably on Main Street in Stillwater, if I may.
You son of a bitch. You nailed it. You fucking nailed it. To everybody listening, I have a terrible proclivity of basically naming every street in Main Street in our podcasts, whether just out of laziness or convenience. That's just what we do on this podcast. So anyway, yes, William walking down Main Street in Clearwater, and he sees Clementine Pennyfeather.
Yes, which is the white prostitute?
Yes, it is, you xenophobic motherfucker.
I'm just trying to keep him straight.
Yes, it is. Yeah, it's the one with the big eyes and the funny face. She kind of looks a little bit like Lady Gaga from the side.
A little bit, yeah. She has the nose.
Yes, exactly.
Yes, right. So she walks past her, and then this whole like narrative ensues in which I don't know, one of the sheriffs or someone is basically dragging in a bounty hunter, and they're super excited.
I think it's a bounty hunter bringing in a criminal to the sheriff.
Yes, sorry, yeah, bounty hunter bringing in a criminal to the sheriff. You have William looking at all the different wanted ads splayed on the side, and he's brought in. They all seem pretty happy about it. He even signs the bounty to give the gentleman his money, and within minutes, that criminal's back out in the streets.
Well, yeah, before he comes back out on the street, the sheriff does, and he comes back out onto the street by way of being thrown through the window. And,
very classic saloon bar fight.
It is. So comes storming out here is the criminal. He's got his gun and, just starts blasting people.
Yeah.
And then William is pretty much frozen with inaction and indecisiveness at the moment.
Yeah, he is a giant puss.
He is to start off with.
No, I mean he's always a puss. There's not a scene in this thing where he comes off as being remotely cool. He basically like pussyfoots behind the guy and waits till he gets shot himself, which he's protected from because he's a guest, and then finally decides to shoot him.
I mean, I guess I can't argue. You're right. He does find his chutzpah a little ways through it, but starting off, you're right. He is a big, sloppy, giant pussy.
I thought they were gonna actually have like Clementine just get killed by the dude because of him.
That'd teach him a lesson,
right? But I guess he lucked out, and then he got the fucking adventure bug.
He did. And actually, I thought it was kind of interesting to see what the effect of the bullets are on the guest. Because what we normally see is, Man of Steel style Man in Black is just basically unaffected by the bullets coming through. But maybe he's got thicker clothing. Maybe he has some sort of body armor thing under his suit. Or maybe he's just not a fucking pussy.
I was about to say the same thing. Maybe he's just not a giant pussy.
And then also, can I say that in this episode, we can go ahead and dispel the possibility of William being the Man in Black in the past.
Definitely.
Because a handful of different things happen that show that William is on the current plot line or timeline that the Man in Black is as well. So let's just go ahead and put that one to bed. And
do you have any names of the Redditors or whatever that had that theory?
No, I don't. Why? Because we always give nice shout outs. You want to give mean shout outs now?
Yeah, I just wanted to say fuck you guys for wasting your time 2 episodes in.
Well, hey, I mean, that's pretty much what we do here, too. We talk about the possibility of different things that could occur way before we have any business doing so.
That's true, but we please millions of people by doing it.
Huh. I don't know if I don't know if we're reading the same statistics on SoundCloud there, buddy.
Or 5,500 people in 3 months, but whatever. Who's counting?
So anyway, William shoots the dude dead. He helps up Clementine. The bounty hunter walks over, gives him a nice little compliment. The bounty hunter, by the way, sort of looks a little bit like a poor man's Josh Brolin in both look and his accent.
I would say definitely, I would agree. Or, in look, he looks a little bit like a rich man Scott Speedman.
Who's Scott Speedman?
Exactly. I mean, you can look him up. He was in Felicity, but it looks like a more square-jawed version of that. To me, though, I think it would have made more sense just to use the fifth Hemsworth.
Nice.
There's got to be one, right?
It would be fourth, by the way. But Josh Brolin's father, is Josh Brolin's father the character in the original Westworld? Like the one that you think is going to be the protagonist at first, the kind of cool, what's the word?
Yeah,
like Han Solo-ish one. Is that Josh Brolin's father?
Yes, I think so. It's a Brolin.
Yeah, maybe it's an uncle. I don't know. Anyway, I actually, just because I'm constantly looking up stuff for the notes, I had been going through those. I happened to see the name Brolin, and I just wasn't aware of that before.
And you just started to I'm actually, it is James Brolin, which James Brolin is definitely a Brolin. There's no arguing there. But let me confirm that he is a father.
Yes, I actually did just look it up too, and James Brolin is Josh Brolin's father, and we have gotten a little off the rails, so we'll just get back into it. But I don't know, that's semi-interesting, and probably 80% of the people listening already knew it.
I would agree. It's semi-interesting to those 20%.
Yeah, exactly. Which us two buffoons are clearly in. Boob Tube Buffoon Buddies. All right, so William's buddy Logan walks up and compliments him at this point for I don't. Does he say popping his cherry? I think is probably the terminology.
Yeah, something like pretty normal and appropriate.
Yes, that is Logan's go-to. And we do learn here for sure what the nature of their relationship is, which is that Logan is William's future brother-in-law in that William is marrying Logan's sister.
Which is weird that he would take him somewhere where they're going to fuck robots.
And where he's constantly encouraging him to fuck robots, despite the fact that that is not what he wants out of his $40,000 a day trip here.
Yeah, they must... I mean... So one thing I was thinking about in this episode, especially as you have more references to like the normal world, I wonder if they're ever going to take any time to show us the normal world.
Yeah, I don't know. It's quite possible that they won't, honestly.
Sure, and I'm curious. I mean, because you wonder with prices like that and the fact that this technology is so advanced, you wonder what the normal civilization actually looks like at this point and how advanced it is, or is it literally identical to just us right now, or is the whole appeal meant to be that no matter what time period you watch it, you just assume it's the period you are now?
I read a theory, and I don't want to go too into it because I don't personally buy into it, but I did read a theory that Westworld is hosted on an off-world site. Like, it's not actually on Earth, and there were a couple of reasons why, but I didn't find them super compelling. But just to say, we don't know, and we might never know. And I am curious to see if they will go into that ever, or if we're ever going to see any of the other parks that are mentioned in the original film.
Yeah.
So
like medieval world.
Yeah, or a Roman world. So
what if they had a Game of Thrones Westworld crossover, and Game of Thrones was just medieval world?
You love the crossover idea. You were suggesting the Jurassic Park Westworld crossover, I think, last episode.
All I'm saying is that if you give me a seat at the boardroom table, I'm going to make a fucking crossover happen.
Are you an executive at Fox Broadcasting?
Not Fox, but I'm basically our executive of crossover programming at Boob Tube Buddies, and we just haven't found a way to make it happen yet.
Oh, Jesus Christ. I'm glad. You're just constantly preaching about synergy to me. I fucking hate it.
Oh, my goodness. Everything can be achieved through synergy.
Yeah, cheese was the right word there.
Cheese through synergy.
All right, so William...
Except good diction.
Yeah. Okay. All right, so William says he wants to go on an adventure, which you can tell Logan's not particularly thrilled about because that's not what he wants out of this, but he is going to oblige. So let's get over to Teddy's plotline, which is actually featured pretty heavily throughout this episode.
Yeah?
You don't think so?
I guess it is. So here we'll get to the point.
Bizarre reaction.
Here we'll get to the point where we were talking earlier because you were like super excited to talk about this episode. Right?
Okay.
This is the first episode I was kind of bored.
Okay, I personally was not, and I loved it the entire way throughout, but I could tell, why don't you just real quick, without going too off topic here, what did you not like about this episode, whereas the first two really grabbed you?
To me, it wasn't anything in particular. I think I mentioned this in episode 2. The Groundhog Day aspect does wear on me if they're not introducing enough new stuff, and I think they do that overall. But in hindsight, like I usually leave the next day, I'm thinking about the episode, and I have all these big moments. And this is the first one where I was like, I don't remember much about it that I like loved. Then I went through your notes and realized how much cool stuff happens, but it's all very laid back, like basic stuff,
I got you. Yeah, it's subtle revelations. In fact, it's not even really revelations. It's kind of just taking every single plot line other than Man in Black and then just herding them forward a few steps.
Sure. And so to the point of the Teddy storyline, I could not have told you almost any about that the next day.
Okay, here's why I love the Teddy plotline is because all of the guests so far, you called William a pussy. I totally agree. And Logan, completely unrelatable as being like such a fucking dude bro douchebag. And then in the first episode, you have those just fucking Gary Goober and Mildred Millicent, just fucking unbelievably bland guest characters so far. But this person, this lady that was with Teddy throughout this episode, now this made me kind of think of like, these are the sorts of things that I would want to do if I was in Westworld. I would want to go on an adventure. I would want to kind of play the badass, but I could also see myself getting in a situation like she gets in at the end where she's like, oh my fucking God.
Yeah.
Like I could see myself so to me, this was the first episode where I could like really transport myself into the shoes of a guest and think like, and it actually just started generating like all the things that I'd want to do if I was there, because I actually now have like a point of reference of a character that is doing exciting things within the park, but isn't like a total badass like the Man in Black. Because I would not go in there day one and be a fucking stud at the game like the Man in Black is. Like, you need time to break in. I love that she is like kind of going for it, but there are definitely real moments of like pure terror at what's going on. So to me, I found it like a more realistic is a bizarre word to use with a science fiction show like this, but like a realistic view of like being able to transplant yourself.
For you, it was relatable.
Exactly. So yeah, let's talk about it a little bit. But yeah, that was to me what I loved about this episode was that with her, and then the subtle continued awakening of Dolores. So I'm sorry, I just talked for like a full minute straight. Do you want to get in a word edgewise?
No, I'm good. Keep going.
Okay, so Teddy and this fucking stud lady that I keep talking about, they're walking down Stillwater and they lay waste to this set of guys who I don't really know what the deal is, but at least one of them has a $500 bounty on their head.
And one of them has like a pimp-ass white curly mustache.
Yes, he does. I think that's the guy who has the $500 bounty on his head. So
yeah, if you look at bylaw for back then, like that's a minimum of $150 bounty just for wearing that.
Yeah. So they drag his carcass over and tie him up outside of Maeve's the establishment. I can't think of the brothel right now, but they go inside. She ends up, I think, going off with a female prostitute. He goes and has a drink at the bar, and Maeve has another, I think, quick flash. Oh yeah, a flashback.
She sees Teddy's dead body from last episode.
Yes. So, and we don't really get much more from her this episode.
No, we don't. But I remember last episode you saying like she obviously just the whole thing is overwhelming and she just hits the ground. But I wonder if specifically she saw Teddy, who she actually knows.
Yes, good point. Clearly she does. Yeah. So that to me was, you okay over there?
What? What are you talking about?
It just sounded like you knocked something over.
No,
we don't do that here on Boob Tube Buddies. Consummate professionals. So, okay. So at this point, Teddy sees Dolores outside, exactly like you said, the constant, day after tomorrow sort of thing. Which I like because it is different enough. They go up and they ride onto basically the same bluff in the plains, and she starts asking him questions about, don't you just want to like ride off and leave this all behind? And then he has, I guess, this wall in his programming that's supposed to specifically be designed kind of to keep her contained a little bit, it seems like, where he has, like, there are things in my past you don't know about me, things I gotta atone for. He does not sound like that at all.
No, he does not sound like that at all. And that whole thing is just so silly to me because, he has these things to atone for and they'll be there soon. And they arrive to the ranch at evening time and like, this gun, these gunshots ring out. But
very familiar situation.
Right. But the whole time I'm thinking like he didn't, like all he has to atone for is fake shit that never happened,
Yeah, but he doesn't know that, and she doesn't know enough about his backstory, I guess, to really shed any light on that yet. Yeah, but didn't you keep wondering if she was going to say the line to him to trigger him awake?
Yeah, because she's done it in the past, and I don't know what makes her do that. I don't know if it's because Bernie's telling her to lay low. So the whole time you just kind of question their motives because they're essentially this program, but you also don't know who's really in the know, how often they're in there, if it's not just like waves of it, and then who else, she's recruiting.
That's true. At this point, though, Teddy does not seem to be, for lack of a better word, awake, correct?
Yes, correct.
Okay, so oh my god, what
woke.
did you think about this clip at the beginning of the next scene with the eyeball being synthesized?
It was so cool looking.
It was gorgeous. I love it. It was so cool.
It was really fun.
Yeah. So okay, so that's where we get Ford kind of debriefing Teddy a little bit.
Yeah, and he's I don't know, because they've humanized everyone so much, and even though like he's completely naked, you almost feel bad because he's saying you'll never be able to end up with Dolores. You know, he asked to see if he's ever actually considered that, to see kind of how far his programming is going.
Yeah, but nope, I have things to atone for.
Yeah, so he's pretty solid in there. He's not breaking any protocols like we've seen with Dolores. And then Ford's like, we've never actually bothered to give you a background at all, but I guess that's about to change. And it almost seems like he invents one on the spot, but you obviously know he like downloaded it into him.
That's exactly right. Yes, it was something that had already been programmed, but in this moment he uploads it. So that's when they start to talk about it a little bit, and he kind of describes this background. It begins with a war-torn era or something like that, and there's a villain called Wyatt.
Yeah, and that's kind of where you think it's going to go away at this point. Like, right, Wyatt went missing, came back, he had strange ideas.
Claimed he could hear the voice of God. Why does he does not have that accent? Sorry.
Yeah, claim he could hear the voice of God, eh? That's my
Clavin.
But then from there we get the first piano song that I don't think either of us recognized.
Okay, this song I did not recognize. There was a piano song playing later in the episode, the one that is in Ford's office, and it's by Debussy, and it's the song Reverie. And he was playing that on the piano. And actually, I'm going to give a quick shout out to a guy on Reddit who had a joke that I liked, because somebody wrote like, "Oh, the song that was playing there, that's Debussy's Reverie." And user I Rub Korea on Reddit said, "It really grabs you by the Debussy."
That's pretty good.
It's not bad, right?
No, it's not bad at all. So the song, by the way, from this piano is actually, which I didn't think made sense. They used all these modern pieces of music. This is actually from the period. It's from 1903 from a man named Scott Joplin, who is an African-American composer. So this
How'd you find that? How did you figure that out?
The Googles.
Man, you got a good case of the Googles.
Right, good case of the Googles, but I just wanted to point out how forward-thinking the pianist or like player pianist of Westworld are.
Yeah, you love your pianist.
I love my pianist so much.
Okay, so while this is playing in the background, we see Dolores walking, and Rebus is the name of this character, and he's also, did you ever play Grand Theft Auto 5?
No.
He plays one of the main characters in it, Trevor, who's actually like the main psychopath character. And I don't know, anybody who played Grand Theft Auto 5 would instantly recognize him because the character is designed around him physically a little bit. But his voice is also pretty unique too.
Rebus is a fucking terrible name.
Yeah, it is.
Have you ever heard of Rance Priebus?
No.
He's some Republican, like senator or congressman. But like on the Daily Show, whenever they talk about him, they go Priebus. But I hear Rance Priebus, and I just feel like it's put together as Rebus.
Yeah,
Rebus
sure.
McIntyre.
So Rebus McIntyre stops Dolores, and he's with some other scumbags, and I think one of them actually is a really slimy, cowardly guest, right?
Definitely a guest.
Yes, and he's like, "Oh, I wanted something easy," because Teddy walks up and is kind of like defending her honor.
Yeah, like this girl's putting up a fight. I wanted a clean, innocent, good time rape.
Yeah, exactly. If my rape requires any level of perspiration, I'm not into it.
Exactly, yeah. I think what you're looking for might be consent.
Yeah, exactly.
Right?
You're going to want to go to the brothel.
Yeah. Anyway.
So Teddy and Dolores, they go out to the plains again, and he's trying to teach her how to shoot a gun, but she can't bring herself to pull the trigger. And
I don't think she can pull it.
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking. Like, is it actually in her programming? Because he says some hands weren't meant to pull the trigger, which obviously has a double meaning.
Yeah, it's like, to me, it's a program line of how to make sense of when she tries to shoot a gun and you meet her in a storyline and she can't.
Yeah, exactly. Just like the guys who can't wield the axe later on in the episode, certain characters have built-in limitations.
Yes.
Okay, so the sheriff rides up, and we've got the cool lady that I keep telling you that I think is like just the cat's fucking meow.
And she's so fucking cool, you didn't bother to learn her name.
I looked everywhere, dude. I saw somebody wrote something down, but then I saw other people responding to it saying, where in the episode did you see that? And then I watched it a second time and never once caught her name. So
if you check the credits, they have her credited as Bad Mama Jamma, so just use that.
I looked through the IMDb. I couldn't tell which person she was. So I didn't want to come on here and feed in bad information, even at the risk of sounding a little bit under-researched.
It's all right, man. Next episode, we just claim it's your programming.
You bastard.
Yeah, anyway.
I was just beginning to love. You love when I do my dying robot voice.
Yeah, it's so good. It's so good.
Okay, so this is where the sheriff tells them, hey, we find that... God damn it. Okay, what does his accent actually sound like? Has he got a Texas accent?
Well, we find that the same lady and Teddy have been in the last season.
I do declare.
I do declare, Mr. Beauregard. or it's just Foghorn Leghorn.
Yeah, definitely that's what it sounds like.
Yeah.
Okay, so anyway, he says we found Wyatt, and good old Teddy Flood's the only one that can bring him in.
His last name's Floods?
Flood.
That's kind of cool.
Yeah, it is. Teddy Flood is actually a pretty cool name. I kind of wish my name was Flood sometimes. Flood Foxman.
Your first name was Flood? I thought you meant Adam Flood.
No, I mean, I still want Foxman's a fucking awesome name. So maybe Foxman
He's
Flood.
a different first name. Huh.
What would be better, Flood Foxman or Foxman Flood?
How about Cunning Foxman?
Why can't I have Flood in there?
Cunning Flood Foxman?
That sounds stupid.
Yeah, it does sound stupid. I do like that there's like seasonal narratives, kind of like Disney. Like you go to Disney a different type of year and you have some weird, like, I don't know, specific stuff to the park.
Okay, you're talking about in terms of decoration?
At Disney, it's in terms of decoration, but you can tell, like, they're, just the fact that they're constantly changing up the narratives. So
okay, I got you.
So if someone were kind of go like 3 months later, just some rich person, they're not expecting the same narratives, and things are always changing.
No, in fact, if you go onto the website, you can find that you actually can only book for a month's stay, and I don't know how often you can come back, but every month, I guess they must change out the plot or something like that, because you can only stay for a month at a time. And I don't know, like, at what point then you can come back, but you cannot book a stay over 30 days.
That's probably because they have to hide all the accidental death bodies.
Yeah, that might be true.
Like maybe they had like, we'll get through all 6 seasons and they'll reveal like this is just a month worth of Westworld. And like you basically have a robot revolt every month that you have to deal with.
That is like the last thing that we find out, like the M. Night Shyamalan plot twist, is that everything that has happened was actually intended by the creators of Westworld.
Or not, yeah, I mean, not necessarily like intended, but it's just like, bad side effects. Like, yep, every month we have to clean all this shit up and bury the bodies and make new robots and this and then the other. But hey, it's all right. We get $40,000 a day. We'll be fine.
Yeah, and apparently that's like the bronze package too, not even the expensive ones. So
yeah, you can tell they're pretty fucking poor.
Yeah. So Teddy and Sheriff go riding off, and they're talking about Wyatt and his men. And Teddy's giving a little bit more of his programmed-in backstory about, Wyatt's got this hold over his men, and it's turned them into something, almost inhuman. They don't feel pain. They'd ride with him to the gates of hell because in their minds, they're already there.
Yes.
Okay.
They do all that.
God, you like give the fucking wet blanketest reactions to all my dramatic monologues.
I think to be fair, it's just this episode where you're like infatuated with the Teddy storyline and I'm just not. So I don't have, like, when you get into it, I'm like, I don't have a follow-up. This was the part that bored me.
You can't even fake it? God damn. You and me are probably the two worst improvisation, like, sketch people in the world. And it really shines through on the plot lines where we disagree.
Yeah, it's like, that's cool. Can we move on?
Okay, well then what did you think about this? Okay, so Teddy and Wyatt and all them, they all ride up and see the dead The dead bodies. The dead bodies with the buzzing flies, and Teddy actually swats at one of the flies. I don't know if you noticed that, but shouldn't he not be able to do that?
I didn't notice that. So I do like that. That's interesting. I think that the programming would say if they actually saw a fly, that the human thing to do would be swat at it, but they wouldn't feel a fly on their skin unless they saw it.
But still, it's harming a living thing.
Yeah.
So doesn't that break the protocol and break Isaac Asimov's 3 laws of robotics?
Well, I mean, they didn't put a disclaimer out and said we follow these 3 laws from a different book.
But they have said multiple times about, would you ever harm a living thing in all their debriefings.
But are you saying the flies are real?
Yes.
How are the flies? So you're saying real biological flies are going to fly around fake dead bodies?
I mean
it's not real blood. There's no actual decomposition. It's fake. Why would they go around it?
I get what you're saying, but wouldn't a fly still be attracted to it? I mean, we don't know exactly. You're right. We don't know any of the composition. So maybe it's so realistic that it would still draw flies. I mean, honestly, like
robot flies. That's the only explanation.
Like flies are attracted to food and stuff like that. It's not like it has to be a human. You know what I mean? Like whatever the blood is.
Do you think that the fake humans are made of cheese?
They could. I mean, it could be fucking syrup inside of them. That would definitely attract. You know what I mean?
It's like a big griddle on the outside. It's like a kind of tasty bun inside. It's all syrup.
I'm just saying, I'm sticking with there is something to him slapping at the flies. I don't think that they show you so many flies crawling on robots' faces to all of a sudden have a character that is a robot swatting at flies and have it mean nothing.
I'm not contesting that it means nothing.
Okay. All right. So the lady host walks up to one of the bodies and examines it closely. And I don't know if it startled you at all. It's not like I was scared, but it definitely made me like do a little one of those as like the host goes and just coughs up shit. And then all of a sudden we hear a ooh, and all of the bullets just start flying.
It like when he gasped, I did jump a little bit.
Okay, wow. From the guy who is never scared. I guess there's a difference between being scared and being startled.
Yes, I will get startled like a motherfucker.
For sure. Okay, so the one thing I did like about this is like, I've talked about how like she's game, she's up for all this. And there is a guest who I'm assuming is either her husband or her brother or related to her of some sort. He's there with her and he is like, I did not sign up for this shit.
Yeah, he's like, get me the fuck out of here.
Yeah.
Like you can, I don't know. I had a good line there and I don't have it anymore.
He's like, I'm not even into this Teddy plot line.
I'm not even into this Teddy plot line. I wasn't even supposed to be here today. Yeah. I'd much rather be dealing with like a cannibal holocaust. I'm going back to the hotel.
So yeah, he does. He gets escorted back, but Teddy, the sheriff, and the badass lady press on, and it's dark, and they are moving through, and all of a sudden she stumbles and trips over a wire, and all of a sudden we see that these guys start popping out of nowhere and they stab the sheriff a bunch of times, and that's when we get and I love, dude, the pitch that she gets to when she screams the "oh my fucking god" is so good. Like even on the second time watching that, it made me smile ear to ear. Like such a good delivery of that scream. And and she looks so terrified. She starts firing her gun. So does Teddy. He tells her to run. She does. And Teddy has like a really cool like 6-gun cock the hammer, the sort of thing, and it has no effect. I don't know what the deal with that is.
I'm not sure there either. I don't know what that's meant to imply, but yeah, he is just fucking lighting them up, and either they just are meant to be some kind of crazy mythical creatures in this plot line and just like resistant to physical bullets, or they're like, I don't know, savage guests.
Yeah, no, I really don't know. I read a couple of theories, like maybe this is the kind of introduction of this plot line, and they want guests running back talking about how scary this masked marauder or whatever he is, like people coming back and talking about it,
like to create like an urban legend type thing.
Something like that.
Maybe.
So, we don't know, but I mean there are possibilities there. So maybe they were programmed not to, or maybe it's like Teddy said earlier that they don't feel pain anymore, so maybe they are actually wounded, they just aren't, until they're dead, they just keep moving.
It's possible. I mean, I also like the Native American imagery on their masks and things. So
yes,
I don't know. Maybe it's like reprimands for what the American people did to the Indians. Now they're invincible and they're gonna kill all the guests.
The only reason I don't buy into that is because when they are talking about Wyatt's backstory, he says, when he came back from the hills from wandering, he had this revelation that this land, it wasn't meant for the Native Americans, and it wasn't meant for the Americans either. It was, it was waiting for something to come, and that thing was him. He believed that this land wasn't meant for the Indians or the Americans. It was meant for Wyatt.
Wyatt's kind of a crazy fucker.
Yeah, he definitely has that Foxman/Trump level of self-confidence.
Meant for the army /populace of me.
Yeah, definitely. So, okay, before we get into Audible ads and games and any of that mid-episode stuff, let's real quick break down the Ford and Bernard interaction.
Let's do that.
Okay, so Ford is examining a robot as Bernard walks in, and this is the moment where Ford is a little offended that the younger lab tech has covered the robot. He rips off the blanket, says, he doesn't feel anything that we haven't told it to. And then that's when he cuts the robot's face with the scalpel, and the tech looks a little shaken up. I mean, but it's very clear that we're being shown as the audience that this is his distinction, like that he in no way, shape, or form looks at these things as anything more than humanoid. Like they are not human at all. They do not need to be granted the same courtesies, which, I mean, is a cold and logical, realistic view of it. But it seems like a lot of people put their own human traits and emotions and manners of how you would treat another human being into their work with these robots.
Absolutely. And that like Bernie is contrasted because of what's going on with Dolores.
Yes, they are definitely polar opposites.
Yeah. And at this point, I don't know when you want to go to the ad, but we get into some interesting stuff about Westworld's origin and a mysterious character named Arnold. Yeah,
let's just push through the rest of this interaction where they go to Ford's office, and then we'll go to it after that. So
Ford's office, by the way, is fucking awesome.
So cool. Yeah, I wanted to talk about that for a second. Like, I would love to work in Ford's office. It would be a little ostentatious, I guess, for me to have, especially with like my salary intake and things like that. It would be a little over the top, but I'd love to have a robot playing Debussy in my office.
I absolutely would too. I mean, and like I said in past podcasts, I wouldn't be picky. Like, I'm okay if it was just like our local Chuck E. Cheese playing the piano.
Yeah, like really shitty animatronics.
Yes, very much so.
Yeah. But yeah, just like the old artifacts and the molds of the old robots and the skulls and stuff. Yeah, it was really cool. So yeah, let's talk about Arnold. Hey, Arnold.
All right. So Arnold is the other creator of the park. So he was Ford's partner that obviously isn't here anymore. And he mentions that Ford died in the park and that essentially his work was primarily...
Arnold dies in the park.
Yeah, Arnold's work was primarily around, consciousness. And what's kind of cool, though, is throughout this you actually see some... like flashbacks to Anthony Hopkins, and they do a fucking great job with the CGI.
Oh my god, dude, it's breathtaking. It
really is.
It was so cool.
It's very, very cool. And there's a I wouldn't say favorite, like not top 10, but just a really good horror movie from the 70s. It's called Magic, starring Anthony Hopkins, and it's about a ventriloquist dummy. Like, it's one of those movies where you're not sure if Anthony Hopkins' character has split personality disorder or if it's actually a haunted, dummy, but it looks like him, from 50 years ago, 40 years ago, just acting, and it looks incredibly realistic.
Yeah, it was it was stunning. I mean, it definitely was one of those things where, as an audience member, you're just like, wow, like we're at that point of technology. Like that's some really beautiful visual arts right there.
Yeah, it absolutely is. So those look fantastic. He's talking about consciousness, and that was his primary concern. And he imagined it as a pyramid, And so at the bottom, he had memory, and then above that, improvisation, and then self-interest. And he never really figured out that top tier of the pyramid. But essentially, that kind of realization of this would be like hearing God.
The bicameral mind, which is an important term, by the way, because that's actually what the final, or maybe not the final episode, definitely the 10th episode, which is 90 minutes, which I'm assuming is the finale, I didn't look, is called bicameral mind.
Are you familiar with Maslow's hierarchy of needs?
Not intimately.
Well, so it's also a pyramid. In the moment they were talking about this, I recalled it, and I didn't recall it verbatim. I had to look it up, but it's a similar pyramid based on the hierarchy of needs. So the very bottom of it is psychological. Above that would be safety. Above that would eventually be love and belonging. Above that would be esteem, and above that would be self-actualization. So you actually see quite a few parallels, and if you kind of think about these robots, the physiological, not psychological, the physiological needs are what they kind of cater to. Like it's just normal logic and safety. And then only in certain contexts of certain plot lines does love and belonging become there. And then only to some of the characters we've really gotten to know do you actually see a sense of self-esteem. And then self-actualization, you only have one character so far that's going through that, which
Dolores.
would really make them a human, which is Dolores. So I thought the parallels were pretty cool in the context of the show.
What the fuck, dude? You should write that out so we can post that online. That is really interesting.
All right, I'll have to do a little blog or whatever they call it these days.
Yeah, that's pretty cool. I did not realize that. And actually, let's keep in mind this pyramid of the memory, improvisation, self-interest, and then the bicameral mind, because I'm going to want to come back to this a little bit later. But to push forward in the scene a little bit, Dr. Ford tells us that Arnold tried to program this in, but of course, the last thing we wanted was for consciousness to be gained by the robots. And then he tells us that Arnold... Nice.
Always got to do the sucking of liver.
Yeah. So Dr. Ford says Arnold died here in the park. His search for consciousness consumed him completely. We called it an accident, but Arnold was a very careful man. Which, the way that he tells the story definitely makes it sound like he was murdered in the park.
Yeah. You want to know my theory?
What's that?
Arnold is the man in black.
That is definitely not only you have come out. Like people are talking about whether or not that might be the case. That is
immediately
a good theory.
where my mind went, and then I was also thinking about the theory that you brought up originally of like maybe he found a way to move his consciousness into a robot. So the fact that he is studying consciousness,
combining theories here.
So did Arnold find a way to actually move his consciousness into a choice robot of his that overrode the programming? So this robot is the newcomer. It's a hybrid. It's not like it's operating at a higher level than a human.
Man,
but
I got another tasty theory later on that's going to actually kind of tie into what you're saying here that will kind of build on it. So, okay, I think that we're speaking the same language. And because I know that my beautiful wife, Bethany, is going to be listening to this, let me also say, completely independent of anything that I had said or thought, she also said, do you think that the man in black is Arnold? So I'm just going to go ahead and shout that out to her because I know she's going to listen to this. And now I'm going to get a text at some point saying, thank you for calling me out on air. Because I am a good guy. All right,
there we go.
Brownie points.
I will say, him being at it for 30 years, like this is all lining up.
Yeah, for sure, it really is. So, I guess that's pretty much it. Real quick, basically at this point, he kind of goes to excuse Bernard, and then at the last second, he says, "You mustn't make Arnold's mistake. Forgive me, but I know the death of your son Charlie still weighs heavily on you." And it's kind of unnecessary, like kind of a dick thing to say.
Pretty tone deaf. I mean, I would only assume
that is what it is.
I would assume that he just doesn't have any tact. I would assume that what he's saying is that, Arnold fell into the depths of despair, whether it's about his work, whether it's about something personal, and led him to go like too far down the rabbit hole and essentially consumed himself. And like, I know you also, Bernard, are dealing with pain, and I don't want to see the same for you, but you know, he doesn't say it in that many words. He says it in like 3, like, hey, your son's dead, get over it.
Yeah, it is. This is the first episode where, I mean, you maybe get a sense of there are some not great things about Dr. Ford in the first 2 episodes, but in this episode, you get really like I don't know if I'm like the world's biggest Dr. Ford fan. He kind of seems like an asshole.
Yeah, I also think it's interesting. His name is Ford, like, you know,
Henry Ford.
Yeah, inventor of the automobile and all that. So
yeah, I'm sure that there's some parallel there. And we don't really need to get into Bernard's call with his wife or his ex-wife, but it cues some flashbacks to him remembering Charlie, his son, dying in a hospital bed, which is very sad.
Yeah, it's sad. I mean, he talks about instead of forgetting the pain he has is all he has left of him, which I thought was important only because we're talking about on the opposite end of the spectrum, reveries and giving memories to these robots.
Yeah, and I read another thing that said, like, what if maybe part of the reason why he's so interested in the waking of consciousness is because he'd like to design a robot that's kind of like a young Charlie, where he could sort of bring forth his memories and eventually have him become self-actualized. And, well, I'm using your word right there. But maybe like to kind of bring back some form of his son into the world. So obviously there's not a lot of basis for that, but I mean, it's possible that could somehow be one of the driving forces behind his interest in it.
What if Bernard is just like fucking delusional and he eventually at some point just like begs Ford to make a replication of his son, and he wants him to be just like him, and Ford's like, I can't, I don't have his consciousness. He's like, no, you don't understand, I saved all his iTunes playlists, like, you can make it happen.
Oh my god, I got his browser history.
Yeah, I got his browser history, like, surely that data amounts to consciousness. Like, no, it's a little more complex than that.
That's funny.
Yeah.
Okay, so actually this would be a good point, if you're cool with it, to cut to an Audible ad. And if I am not mistaken, we have a completely original and unique one that you have done specifically for this episode, right?
Yeah, we got a little sci-fi themed Audible ad for Westworld. So enjoy. We'll be right back. Hey there, little buddies. Does the state of the world leave you in despair and make you want to leave this world only to try out another one? Well, you don't have to wait 50 years for Elon Musk to colonize Mars. You can step into another world right now with Audible. That's right. With Audible, you can go to any foreign world you want with classic authors such as H.G. Wells, Philip K. Dick, George Orwell, and many, many more. And just when you finish one book and become depressed, have to confront the harsh reality that you live in, well, that's when you realize there's 180,000 more titles to choose from. So go to audibletrial.com/Boob Tube Buddies to try it free for 30 days. You'll be doing yourself a favor, and I guarantee you won't regret it. Nor will your fragile psyche. All right, welcome back, everyone. Hopefully you enjoyed that Audible ad.
Yeah, it was a good one, man. I'm loving, by the way, this new awakening we've had in our Audible ads the last handful of episodes. So many original songs and different things like that. I love them or hate them. They're at the very least completely unique to what other people are doing with Audible ads. So
I would
hats
agree.
off to you, young man.
Yeah, you as well. Been doing some cool stuff, and I had like the completely original idea the other day of maybe we should expand them outside of Audible ads.
Oh my god!
Move them into like, I don't know, just comedy bits. So think of this.
Okay.
A reimagined cover of "Here Comes the Man in Black."
Galaxy Defender.
Uh-oh. So anyway, I think we have some sweet shit coming out. That was actually your idea. But hey, I don't think we're going to do a game.
For the record, the Men in Black thing was not my idea.
No, but the idea to like do
yeah, promotional stuff that we could do with our creatives, either songs or videos. I put out a really low quality GIF today, no big deal.
Absolutely not a big deal.
Yeah. Okay, so we're not. We're running a little long, so we're not really going to go into a game. But real quick, can I run that theory that I was going to tell you about?
You can, because all the discussion points I was going to touch on, we've basically done organically. So I'm in the clear. Let's do it.
Okay, so we learn about Arnold this episode and his attempts to create consciousness in robots. You and I discussed the possibility of Arnold having put his consciousness into the Man in Black. Okay, so the maze that the Man in Black is seeking. You're there with me, right?
Yes.
Okay, so is it possible that that this maze was created as a... Do you know what a Turing test is? Have you seen Ex Machina?
Yeah, I've seen Ex Machina. A Turing test is basically a self-awareness test for AI.
Exactly.
Yeah, to see if it's sentient and if you're in danger.
Is it possible that this maze could be kind of like a Turing test for robots? So, like, if they can find their way to the maze and if they can get through to the end of the maze, then they can kind of self-actualize, and either at the end of that, then they're fucking destroyed because they don't want them self-actualizing, or whatever might be the last bit of it. Is it possible that that the reason why the girl doesn't want the Man in Black, or why she says that the maze is not for you, is because it's not for him to self-actualize, like it wasn't created specifically for him? What do you think about that? And the Turing test part of it?
I think it could be just a Turing test for if any of the conscious robots were to assign it, they would be killed because obviously they don't want them sentient. So it not being for you, I don't know if that's any more...
That might just be a line that they say to try to throw you off the hinge.
For anyone trying to do it, they might say that.
Okay.
But either way, I could definitely see this being like a sufficient measure of dealing with robots that would be a risk. Like, this is almost what is supposed to catch the Doloreses and Peter Abernathy's out there, but obviously it's not doing that good of a job.
Well, yeah, and probably because they haven't gotten to that extent, because they're monitored so closely that they haven't been allowed to really get to that.
And if the Man in Black is that, if it's Arnold finally getting to a point where he's like that, or whatever, 30 years is a long time.
What, to have found his way to it?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a fair point.
I'm not saying it's wrong. I'm saying if that's the case, maybe it's finally getting to a point where it's scaling, where like with anything AI, it's meant to be exponential. So maybe now that he's finally getting to that point, Dolores is also, so maybe the idea is that tons of these robots are finally getting to that point, and it's hard to defend against.
Sure. And clearly with actually, you know what? I'm going to hold off on talking more about the bicameral mind until we get into Dolores' stuff here in a minute. So actually, Let's get into it with Bernard, again, speaking with Dolores in their little secret chamber area. And he's like, I need your help, Dolores. I can't decide what to do with you.
Yeah, he's just talking to her as if she's going to make that type of decision, which doesn't make that much sense. Right?
No, it doesn't. But clearly he's very conflicted, and he's, I don't know, either hoping that somehow she'll kind of nudge him one way over the fence or the other.
Yeah, I think he's, like you said, on the fence, hoping she'll push him over. But she sees all the good in the world. She said something like that.
Yeah, because he says, like, the world you live in is not a nice place for you. And she's like, I like to think of the world as this bright and... Okay, drop it. Just stop.
Yeah, he goes, shit, girl, drop that mic. If you can't handle, otherwise, improv this bitch, yo.
Are you saying that because he's black?
No, that's my impersonation of him. I can't impersonate him.
That's fine. So you do black voices as being like that, and I do all white voices like we're all country western hicks.
Exactly.
So at the very least,
or
if we're stereotyping negatively, it goes every direction.
Every direction. We negatively stereotype every goddamn race on this earth.
Yeah.
Right?
Okay, so, but yeah, he says, okay, improvisation only. Would you rather feel these things and ask these questions, or simply be safe? And she says, there's only one version of me, and once I find it, I'll be free.
And then it's just like super fucking spooky.
Kind of. He has a change of heart here, and he's like, okay, let's see where this path leads. And she agrees that she'll stay on her loop and continue playing the game and, making nice with all the things that she is supposed to do to kind of maintain the anonymity of what they're doing in these meetings.
Sure, but now we see her going back to town and hearing about Teddy getting ambushed, and she rides home. We've seen all this other stuff, and we see her father being shot, but now you see this weird thing between the Peter Abernathy we started with and the replacement, and it just like fluttering between them.
Yes. Okay. And let me go through this next little part here, and I'm going to toss it back and forth to you a little bit because I have some tie-ins with the bicameral mind, and then the entire pyramid actually. Okay. Because to me, she experiences all four of these in this next moment. You ready for it?
I am ready for it.
Okay, so Rebus, sweet name, dude, punches her in the face, drags her off to the barn. Okay, so first, she experiences the first thing on the pyramid of Arnold's model for consciousness here. She grabs his gun from him as he throws her into the hay bale. That's improvisation, okay? She struggles with being able to...
and?
Okay. Oh, nice. Good job. Way to keep with the improvisation bit, man. And I recognized it right away this time.
There we go.
Man,
we're getting better.
Oh my God, we're self-actualizing.
Yeah, we are. We're almost human.
Yeah. Okay, so she struggles with being able to shoot him, and then all of a sudden she has the reverie of the man in black. Okay, that's memory. And then it steals her resolve here, which is like the self-interest to protect herself. And then she hears the voice that says to kill him, which is the bicameral mind kind of occurring right there. The voice of God, or possibly the voice of Arnold telling her to shoot him. So I thought that was kind of interesting that all four of those things occur in that moment of her reaching the peak level of consciousness and self-actualization, to throw to what you were saying.
Yeah, it's almost as if the fourth piece that Arnold couldn't figure out is murder.
Like red rum.
Right? I mean, because I think in that example, I do think it's pretty true, but that fourth piece they don't go into is just murder. So we'll see.
Yeah.
If that's the case, then the consciousness of the robots is the worst thing ever.
Yeah, it's definitely not something you should be encouraging, Bernard. Looking at you, Bernard.
God damn it, Bernie. You're your dead son already.
So that's when she shoots Rebarb through the throat and then runs back up to the house. She gets gut shot and starts bleeding, but she does manage to get on her horse and gallop away at full speed.
Yeah, or high horse. Now that she's like a self-actualizing robot, she thinks she's better than everyone else and can't just die in the scenario like everyone else does.
What sound effect do you think I'm going to counter with here?
Are you going to fart into the mic? Okay, all right, pretty good.
Okay, so you can tell now that we are definitely not doing this sequentially, because we're going to go ahead and just finish off her plot line, which is she rides up to William and Logan, who are sitting around a campfire, and Logan's like, God damn it, I did not pay $40,000 a day to jerk off alone and play these shitty white hat adventures, which I kind of get where he's coming from, but he's also... like, I guess, like the jaded veteran here who's been here, and now he's just coming for like the base, the most base human desire fulfillments. Yeah, whereas it's like William wants to explore,
So it's like when I used to play Destiny and I would go on a raid and I hadn't played in like 3 months. All you get is people that are good just bitching like, what the fuck, man? We got to take on this dude that doesn't know what he's doing. Like, Jesus. We're going to do double the work to keep him alive.
Yeah, but you get where they're coming from. I mean, because if you're playing a game seriously, it does kind of suck to be trying to drag a noob's dumbass through it.
No, I never get what they're saying.
Okay. But you have not self-actualized.
Real quick, since you mentioned Red Dead last week, they officially announced
Fuck, yeah, I know, I saw it. That was awesome. Yeah, you shared the thing with me, and then today they showed like the full artwork.
Yeah, which was like, it was just the blood red skyline. Yeah, the silhouette of all the cowboys.
Yes. Oh my God, I cannot wait.
For those of you wanting to go to Westworld, like, this is the next best thing.
Yeah, essentially it is.
Yeah, absolutely.
I just can't wait. That's going to be so cool. Which, by the way, we should throw that up in the links. The Red Dead, a link to buy it on Amazon or something. That'd be
dude. Get mad retweets.
Sure. Okay. I was talking about the Amazon links.
That too.
Okay, sure. Okay, let's get into Elsie's plotline here, which is mainly with her and old Stubbsies.
Yes, old Stubbsies. like, is Stubbs the Hemsworth?
Yes, he is.
Okay. It's just such a weird name. It seems like an old Western name, so it's weird that it's the modern person.
Yeah, I get what you're saying. That is a good point.
Right.
It does seem like that would be like the sheriff's deputy or something like that.
Yeah, I feel like Elsie should just be called Rusty. Rusty and Stubbs.
Elsie's quite the throwback name as well.
Yeah, I guess a little bit. So anyway, they are continuing to investigate people as per their job, and this one is Rebus.
Yeah, Trevor from Grand Theft Auto 5.
Yeah.
And so, man, I don't know if you noticed, one of his shoulder, I don't know, the bone there. What is that? What's the bone called in your shoulder? Collarbone. One of his collarbones is like really fucking high up. It was distracting looking. I mean, he's very muscular guy, great job. Stephen Ogg is the name of the actor. Way to stay fit. Good job on that. Big ups. But he does have that one thing is so fucking bony. I kept thinking like he looks like Doomsday.
I did not notice that, but I did notice that like he's fairly like ripped and in really good shape, but his head and haircut.
Queer.
Yeah, well, his head and haircut's hideous.
Yeah, it is. He has then you like have a very receded hairline.
And then you have Teddy, who's like the opposite. I mean, they're all compared to like either of us just in good shape, but Teddy is like more. Me? Well, you know what I mean? They're like ripped, but Teddy is like pretty.
Excuse me? Come on, dude. Yeah. Like, they are definitely programming handsome studs that look exactly like the Foxmen into Westworld.
Yeah, that's true. But Teddy, like, he's, fairly handsome in the face, but compared to Rebus, he's nowhere near as ripped.
That is true, but like you said, way easier on the eyes when it comes to the face part, and quite less rapey looking.
A little less rapey.
Yeah, so Elsie and Bernard are talking about Rebus's friend Walter, who was the one who had the milk pouring out of him last episode.
Yes.
Okay, so in that video that they're looking at of Walter inside of that tavern or whatever it is, he's talking to someone in the video despite no one being there, and he's specifically talking to Arnold. So this kind of cues up what we end up seeing with Bernard having the conversation there with Dr. Ford later.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so let's get... at this point, she gets a message about a stray, and Bernard's like, okay, go wrangle this stray up, and she goes with Stubbs, and they go up the service elevator, and... Then we get a cut to these crusty looking dudes around a campfire. They're arguing about chopping wood, and all of a sudden they freeze. And that's when Elsie and Stubbs walks up. And this plot line was
pretty cool.
Very funny to me that they are 2 days behind on their cattle drive coming into town because they've been sitting there arguing over who's going to chop the wood because none of them have the access to the axe because
it's just a basic line of code that's fucked up. It's a glitch.
Yes. It's
like walking into a wall in a video game.
Yes, but they are designed not to be able to touch the axe to chop the wood, but they're not supposed to leave until they've chopped the wood to make the fire. So it's kind of like this endless loop that they're stuck in because the one guy has removed himself and he was basically the only person who could perform the function to allow them to propel themselves into the next parts of their plot line.
Yeah, and like I did like a coding class once upon a time, and it's amazing how easy it is to get one line wrong and it just perpetually repeats itself to the point where it like crashes your computer.
Definitely, yep. Gotta close that loop.
Yeah, gotta close that feedback loop.
So they go into one of the tents and Stubbs is picking up like these little whittling woodwork things, and he's like, you guys might want to work on this guy's like dexterity because man, these are some fucking shitty carvings that he's got here. But
they weren't.
No, only the one that he picked up was like a little lumpy and misshapen, but the rest were like, I mean, they were pretty cool. Like if you made one, I'd be like, damn, dude, like you got some skills.
Yeah, and even the one they held, I almost thought it was like a tortoise shell, but without the tortoise in it. Like I thought they all looked fine, and maybe he was just referring to the Orion or whatever cut into it. But otherwise, like by that comment, you would think it would look like Michael J. Fox did it, but it didn't.
Oh no.
It's just sawdust.
Yeah. That's funny. But yeah, I agree. It wasn't bad looking. So he had carved like Orion's belt on it and like the constellation. So they go wandering off, and Stubbs is reviewing his little GPS tablet and to kind of determine on where they should go. And that's when he tells her, like, yeah, did you not get that? That is Orion's belt that he's carved on there.
Which she definitely didn't get at all.
No, she definitely did not understand that until that moment. But and she's like, oh, yeah, what are you, fucking Galileo all of a sudden?
Yeah. Galileo Figaro.
Magnifico. Oh. Okay, so anyway, night is falling in Westworld as Elsie and Stubbs keep walking, and Elsie goes walking off by herself to Vector, I think she says, which means she has to pee. And as soon as she starts, she hears like a rustling sound, and she looks behind a rock and sees this fucking dumbass wandering robot that is stuck in this little ravine.
Yeah, and I guess she talks to Bernard about that.
She leaves a message for Bernard on the phone about how it seems as though he was put down there. Like, give me a call back. We need to talk about this right now.
Just because of how weird he's acting, she doesn't really know how to proceed.
Yeah, like, obviously the thing needs to be removed, but the fact that he's even down there at all, like, something is happening. She has already expressed her belief that there's some level of tampering occurring.
Sure.
And this is furthering her thoughts on that. And so, yeah, she leaves that message for Bernard. And then Stubbs, I guess, pulls out his harness like he's going to rappel down there.
Yeah, and he figures that, like, while we're waiting for a response from Bernie, let's just go ahead and cut this thing's head off.
Yeah, that is clearly what we should do here. Not calling the teams, not calling Bernie or any experts. Let's. I'm just going to go down there with a very small hand axe or hand saw, and I'm going to remove his head. So he asks Elsie to put him in sleep mode, grabs out that saw, starts going at it, blood fucking shooting out of the neck, and then all of a sudden, its eyes open.
Yeah, the dude wakes up, knocks like Stubbs back, escapes, climbs up there, grabs a giant rock. You think he's gonna kill Elsie, and instead he just starts smashing his head in.
Yeah, which do you have any guesses as to why he did that? Because I don't.
My guess is that, like, at the control center, what's his name, Nigel? Nigel, the British dude at the control center may have just started beaming Smash Mouth into his ears.
Oh, okay, gotcha.
Might as well be smashing your head with a rock.
Oh, no. Hey, now, you should smash your face.
Yeah, smash your face, or you'll listen to more. Anyway. Okay. Hey, guys, Smash Mouth sucks.
Yeah.
Take that.
And our jokes about Smash Mouth sucking, not particularly sophisticated.
No. Just tell them like it is, No eyebrow needed.
Okay, so that is the end of the episode. So I think we've already talked. Normally at this point, we break it down. Like, what did you think? You liked it, but it was your least favorite of the three. It was probably my least favorite of the three, too, but yeah, I did really enjoy it.
Yeah, I mean, I didn't dislike it. I mean, I still had a good time. I'm totally on board.
Okay, very cool. So I'm not going to go into too much other stuff because we're running a little longer than we generally do here. But just again, you can go to www.boobtubebuddies.com to check out all of our other episodes. If you're watching Luke Cage, American Horror Story, if you want to go and watch things like Stranger Things, it's all on there. We update it every single time we release something. The same day we update the website and put it on there. We put all of our musical Audible ads on there that you can just watch. You don't have to download anything. You can play them straight off of the site. And then just again, Twitter, YouTube, Reddit, Facebook, all those things. Just look up Boob Tube Buddies. You can find us. And then if you could, leave us an iTunes review. 5 stars, please. It really helps with our indexing, helps us kind of grow as a podcast. And I'm droning, so I'm just going to go throw it over to you for any last minute things and tying a bow on this fucking bitch.
I think the show is awesome. I think supporting us is awesome.
Sweet.
And otherwise, I think we've taken too long. So we'll see you next time, little buddies.